Welcome back to Reflections with Emrys. Let's take a moment to see what each symbol has to offer today. Today's symbols are the stag, the rune, Wunjo, and the Rish, also known as the elder. The stag is a symbol of noble strength, steady presence, and the quiet courage to stand tall in your truth. At its core, the stag carries the energy of dignity and self-respect. It doesn't push to prove itself, it simply is, rooted in a calm kind of authority. The stag reminds us that real power is not loud or rushed. It's the strength that comes from knowing who you are and where you stand. And it teaches that gentleness and strength can live in the same body, in the same breath. In life, the stag may appear when you're being called to step into leadership, whether outwardly in your world or inwardly within your own choices. It can show up when you're learning to hold your ground without becoming hardened. You may be in a season where confidence is building, not from ego, but from earned self-trust. The stag can also arrive when you need to remember your worth, especially if you've been shrinking yourself to keep the peace. Its reflection is this: where are you being asked to stand taller, not with force or defensiveness, but with steady dignity, clear boundaries, and the quiet courage to be fully yourself? Wunjo is a rune of joy, harmony, and the deep relief that comes when the inner world and outer life begin to align. At its core, Wunjo speaks to true well-being, not the kind that depends on everything being perfect, but the kind that grows when you feel connected, supported, and at peace with your path. It represents happiness that is rooted, not fleeting. It can be the warmth of community, the sweetness of belonging, or the simple ease of being in right relationship with yourself. Wunjo reminds you that joy is not frivolous, it is a signal of balance returning. In life, this rune may show up when you're beginning to feel more like yourself again. It can appear after a difficult stretch, when you're finally able to breathe without bracing for impact. You might notice small moments of lightness, laughter, gratitude, comfort, arriving more naturally. Wunjo can also be an invitation to let joy be safe, especially if you've learned to expect happiness to be taken away. It asks you to receive goodness without guilt, and to trust that harmony can be real. Its reflection is this: what would it feel like to let joy be steady, something you can rest into, by allowing yourself to receive support, celebrate what's working, and soften into the peace you've earned? Rish, the elder, is a symbol of endings and renewal, deep healing, and the wisdom that comes from releasing what has completed its cycle. At its core, the elder carries the energy of thresholds, those sacred in-between spaces where something is leaving, and something else is quietly preparing to arrive. It is linked to transformation and the natural composting of experience. What breaks down becomes nourishment. Rish reminds us that letting go is not failure, it is part of life's intelligence. It also carries protective, cleansing qualities, like a spiritual clearing that makes room for what's next. And it teaches that grief and growth can be companions, not opposites. In life, Rish may appear when you are closing a chapter, even if part of you still clings to it. It can show up during periods of emotional clearing, when old stories, patterns, or attachments are ready to be released. You may find yourself reflecting on what you've outgrown, what you've survived, and what you no longer want to carry. The elder can also arrive when healing requires honesty, naming what hurt, honoring what was lost, and choosing to step forward anyway. Its reflection is this: what are you ready to lay down, not in bitterness, but in wisdom, so that your next season can begin with clearer breath, softer weight, and a steadier sense of peace? When we look at these three symbols together, the stag, Wunjo, and Rish, a gentle but powerful theme emerges: dignified presence, returning joy, and transformative release. The stag brings steady strength and self-respect. Wunjo brings harmony, joy, and the feeling of coming home to yourself. Rish brings endings, cleansing, and the renewal that follows honest release. Together, they suggest that joy is returning, not because nothing ever hurt, but because you're learning to stand strong through change. This combination carries the feeling of someone who has been through a season of shedding and is now stepping into a more grounded happiness. It's not a shallow, everything is fine kind of joy. It's the kind that arrives when you stop abandoning yourself. It may be time to honor what you're ready to leave behind, and then let yourself receive what becomes possible when you do. The stag encourages you to stand tall in your truth with calm confidence. Wunjo invites you to welcome joy as something stable and deserved. Rish reminds you to release what has completed its purpose, so your life can feel lighter and more aligned. The mood they suggest together is healing and hopeful, with a quiet sense of victory. It feels like walking out of an old forest after a long inner journey, still carrying wisdom, but no longer carrying unnecessary weight. There's a sense of maturity here. Joy that is not naive, strength that is not harsh, endings that are not bleak. This is a lesson in trusting your resilience. You can honor what is ending, you can hold yourself with dignity, and you can still let happiness find you, softly, steadily, without fear. Today's reflection is this: stand tall, let the old fall away, and allow joy to return as a natural part of your healing. Thank you for joining me. I'll meet you in the next reflection.